What up? What up? What up, though? My party people, what's good? Y'all in the chat? Y'all in the chat already? J47, what up, though? Bloody, what's good? What up, though? Dylan, what up, though? Phil Jones in the building, what's good? Knucklehead K already starting off with a super chat. Give it up. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate the support as always. He says smash the like button and the bell icon one time for my guy. Both are free and only takes a few seconds. Man, you heard the rules. I don't make up the rules. Both of them are free. It's free for a like and it's free to hit that subscribe button. I appreciate Knucklehead K for that support, man. What's good, bro? Always showing mad love. Turtle Man, what's good? What up, though? B Dukes, what up, though? Julian said, did I get a new office? He missed seeing my jerseys. I had to come up a little bit, bro. Dang. I thought I was doing better. My bad. I'm going to try to get the jersey soon, but I don't know, man. I don't know. See, I'm working on, it's still a work in progress, bro. It's still a work in progress, but we down here, man. We down here in the basement. I got a new office. I had to move the baby to I had to turn my office to a nursery. So the baby got my room. That's how I be, man. That's how I be. Antonio, what up, though? Antonio said, like, subscribe, comment, share the stream, please do all them. Because you know more Panthers fans than I do, probably. I don't know no Panthers fans outside of y'all, unfortunately. So go ahead and share it with somebody. Please get a video thumbs up because it's 59 people watching and only 17 likes. That math don't math. Extreme Chun, what up, though? D Cash, what up, though? Y'all checking in now. David Gore, what's good? What up? Chance the Fapper. What's good, bro? Hollywood Gaming, what up? J Issue in the building, bro. Appreciate you calling in last week on the hotline. We are not opening the hotline today because I have a special guest. Y'all saw the thumbnail. Y'all saw the title. Tyrants was good. Nick Rosa was good. Trevor Hintz, what up, though? I'm good. Said family-ish. Don't what up, though? Appreciate you. With a salute. All right. Said makes sense and understood. The baby gets to see the winning organization growing up. Hey, man, I hope so. You know what I'm saying? Carolina Boy 803 was good. Brene, what up, though? So y'all thumbs up the show, please. Appreciate it. All right, so we in the building. I got the check-ins again. I appreciate y'all checking in. I got a special guest. Those of you that have been subscribed for at least a year, y'all remember me and Dane collab last year. It was a great time. Y'all really enjoyed it. One of my most popular, most engaging streams, period, on the channel. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was really ridiculous how many views and live viewers, but actually like post views that watch the replay. It was actually ridiculous. And this is a guy that I really, really respect his opinion. We met probably a couple years, well, on Twitter initially, but a couple years ago at training camp in person. He's a South Carolina fellow himself. Without further ado, welcome the guest, Damian Parson, draft extraordinaire. Shout out to him. Y'all give it up.
What's good? What's going on?
Dane, what's going on with your brother?
Living, man. It's busiest time of the year for me, as you know. So, just take it every day as it is, you know what I mean? Being above ground, getting to figure out new things about new players, having a good time doing it, man.
Yeah, we in it, man. We in it right now, huh?
Yes, sir.
We got a combine in a few weeks. Senior Bowl just happened. Because you were in Mobile, right?
Mm-hmm.
How was that?
It was cool, man. The weather was good, actually. Got there Sunday, left on Friday. Every day of practice, it was warm. Sun was out, so that's always a good thing. Wasn't really too enthused with the way the practices were ran, especially the second practice. When you have Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe and those guys and those receivers they had on that second team, to just keep running the ball. That was the defensive unit that had Deion Walker, Walter Nolan, Princely, Kyle Kennard, and bro, I'm telling you, we were sitting there watching them just do team drills of pounding the rock, and they were getting nothing. And I was like, all right, if you had the Canadian quarterback, if you had Dylan Gabriel, you do that. But with these quarterbacks, we came to see these guys as box office names throw the ball. And They weren't doing that. They weren't letting them throw the ball, and they just kept running into brick walls. And even when those top names wasn't in, they brought the backups in, they still couldn't run the ball. And I was like, yeah, man, let's just go ahead and put a nail in that coffin. But it was a cool time. Got the network and kick it with a lot of people and everything each night. So it was a good time.
Yeah, that second D line group was loaded, man. It was it was some nice dudes, and it really got me and of course a lot of Panthers fans excited. So of course that's what we brought you on, man. Like I said, you a Carolina boy yourself. You know what I'm saying? You're not a Panther fan, unfortunately. You want to give a story on that? Why not? You want to explain yourself?
Yeah, Cam is my favorite, one of my favorite players of all time. I just never really like locking into a true team.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I always rooted for players like Cam and Tom Brady are my two favorite quarterbacks. Walter Payton is my favorite running back. You know what I mean, of all time. AP is my second favorite running back of all time. I just like always rooted for player success. So when Cam was on the Panthers, I was always rooting for the Panthers to win. You know what I'm saying? Then they did my boy Cam dirty, and I was like, all right, I'm out of here. You know what I mean? I'm out of here. You know, you did Cam dirty, and I was like, I gotta go.
So what we gotta do to get you on the Bryce Young bandwagon is what the people want to know, because you had Bryce Young as your quarterback too coming out, and of course CJ, phenomenal start to his career. Even his down year was numbers wise pretty solid. Obviously there was a little regression. Yeah. We know their coaches and stuff, whatever, but Bryce clearly made some progress, and so I know you had some doubts about Bryce, but like, what we got to do to get you a fan? What did he prove anything to you this year? Like, talk to us about how you felt about Bryce's progress from, I guess, what you saw in college and what you expected last year, and of course to where he finished this season.
I think this season was a great depiction of why I was high on Dave Canales.
Yeah.
Just being able to put Bryce. This is not the same offense and concepts that he ran for Baker Mayfield or Geno Smith. Those are two more shot taking quarterbacks, bigger arm guys, but like his ability to curate an offense around his quarterback is like, to be honest, everybody thinks the smartest minds are in the NFL. We watch football every Sunday when the season is in. We do not see the smartest people in the NFL all the time. And to see a coach say, you know what, regardless of what I've ran prior, to do what he did for Bryce, to get Bryce comfortable, and then for also, shout out to Dan Morgan, doing the right thing and paying that $100+ million on two guards. Some people thought it was crazy. I didn't think it was. I thought it was the right decision, because then you got to see, once the benching happened, once Deontay Johnson was traded, you saw Bryce kind of walk out there and the world wasn't on his shoulders. And I felt like, okay, now we get to see point guard Bryce. That's why you got to start to see some of the things that did make me excited for him at Alabama. And I think now it's just like adding another outside receiver, him developing the deep ball with their outside receiver. That's what's going to really, like, for me, because it's like I'm an offensive minded guy. So it's like I'm an offensive and defensive minded guy. So like I can always, when I'm watching film, I look at when I'm watching the quarterback, I'm like, okay, this is what he does well. How can I devise a plan to shut that down? You know what I mean? And when you play inside of a 5 to 12 yard box, as you know, run the right type of coverage, I can sit, squat, and keep everything in front of me. Got to take the top off. Got to be able to force those safeties back. Also help the run game. So I think for him, now that's what I want to see from him. Just keep making those strides, because we saw him really play well towards the end of the season. The way he lit up Atlanta, I think that was on the road, as a matter of fact, with them having playoff hopes and kind of putting the nail in their coffin for the season. Yeah. And everything, that had to feel good for the Panthers to be able to do that to the Dirty Birds. But yeah, I think for me with Bryce is, if we can start getting that deep ball going, he'll start pulling me closer and closer to his side of the field.
And ironically enough, you saw the deep ball, like, and we've talked about it before. Bryce is not that Josh Allen is 4 seconds into the ball clock and just throw a moon ball down the field. He's a rhythm and timing deep ball thrower. He's gonna, the top of his drop, if he sees the single coverage, he's going to let it go. And that's not something he always did as a rookie. I feel like he didn't really – it took him a while to figure out, like, hey, and it may have been the lack of receivers and not having trust in them. But, like, hey, one-on-one is open in the NFL. You got to put it outside shoulder, and these guys are actually good. Even though you had David Moore and whoever on the outside, these guys are still NFL receivers. They're going to come up and make plays for you. You just got to give them a chance. And I think he really learned that. I think a lot of the stuff he saw when we get a lot of single high, because they got a lot of single high because of the lack of weapons and speed that they do have. Yeah. He decided to take advantage of that on the outside. But I agree, having an outside weapon that can, and some speed as well, to kind of to get teams out of that, because I think they thought, okay, hey, we know Chuba is going to run the ball, and we know that they don't really have a ton of weapons that scare us. Let's go ahead and creep that safety up into the box. And I think us being able to add a weapon that can really force teams into more of that shell coverage that we see a lot of teams run, it's going to open up things for the run game with Chuba, but also the passing game as well. So I agree with you there. I guess with Bryce throwing, deep into his weapons, I want to get your thoughts on some of the rookies that we had, because we talked about our draft plan last year. We talked about Leggett, but that was even before we drafted him. Obviously, the steam was there of them meeting with him so much. You were a big Leggett guy. Actually, up and down rookie year, you know what I'm saying, was kind of had some drops, of course, that I thought personally, my impressions, he improved on a lot of the stuff that was like concerns coming out of college, but you saw some stuff pop up that we didn't see. So I just want to get your thoughts on Leggett as his rookie year, as a guy like you that was fairly high on him, and you are, obviously still probably high on him, but just want to get your thoughts.
I think it was a situation with Leggett where it's, welcome to the NFL. You know what I mean? Bodying college corners and out-leaping those guys and playing physical at the catch point the way he did, even down in Mobile. I watched him do it. I was on the field. I watched him do it up close and in person, right? It's a different animal in the NFL. The speed is different. Everything is ratchet up just a little bit more, where in college you can catch that slant because the hash marks are so wide. Yeah. You got that slant, and it's like that safety's got he's got a good bunch of depth that he's got to work down to you, and that lets you turn into a runner immediately. Or you can even take a little bit of time to secure the ball and turn into a runner. In the NFL, I can't remember which game it might have been. It was the game where he had to drop for down the. It might have been the Eagles game, where Bryce threw him a slant, and people would blame Leggett. And I was on Twitter like, guys, that's a hospital ball. Bryce threw it too high, and I was like, that's a hospital ball, dog. Like you get if that was, I promise you, if that was Deontay Johnson, we were probably gonna have some problems in the locker room. He was not gonna be happy about that. Like, that was a too high of a ball close to the middle of the field. Safety came down. I think it was Sidney Brown.
It was Gardner Johnson.
Oh, Gardner Johnson. Yeah, big hit. He was not protected. You know what I'm saying? Took a rib shot, things of that nature. That's where I think it was just a difference for him. I know he battled the wrist injury in the season as well. So I think for him is more so getting back to this year, getting healthy this offseason, looking at the film himself, talk to him in Mobile. No, of course, living in South Carolina, things I've heard from people from the program, hard worker. He's going to put in every bit of blood, sweat, and tears to be as good as he can possibly be. And I think for him and Bryce is just getting that timing and rhythm down even more so. And him I feel like he lost a little bit of confidence with some of the drops. Like, you know what I mean? And because it wasn't something that he dealt with in college. He didn't drop the ball. So it was kind of like one of those situations, typically receivers drop the ball, they look at their hands. And you're like, why are you looking at your hands? And for his situation, I feel like he really wanted to know what was going on with my catching. And I think the speed of the game was just a lot for him. I think now going into year 2, as the game slows down, like, he's going to be fine. Plus the expectations. Trade up to the first round, got him. The expectations, I always say this, it's easy for guys to perform when no one expects you to. Right? Like, that's one of my biggest things is, especially in sports, you see certain, whether it's NBA, NFL, college, don't matter. When you're not expected to do anything and you do it, people pat you on the back. Now we come into that next year and it's like, okay, they start putting you up in rankings. They say, listen, he's arrived, all this stuff like that. Now the expectations are a lot higher. And it's like, okay, can you live up to those expectations? That's why I hate the term generational. Yeah. Last generational quarterback I heard was Trevor Lawrence. I haven't seen generational yet. So it's like, don't put that type of pressure on these young men. At the same time, they're human.
Yeah, and that's a good segue, because somebody that nobody really expected anything from was undrafted free agent wide receiver Jaylen Coker. Now, I don't know how much legwork you did on him coming out of Holy Cross or just any kind of scouting, but I want you to talk about what actually do you see from him on tape, and how is he able to really just kind of come on the scene? Because I think he I don't know if we talked about it before. I think we might have, but he's kind of the reason why they got rid of Jonathan Mingo. They felt good about trading Jonathan Mingo because I think it was the Bears game, like right after Thielen got hurt, they tried to give Mingo they tried to make him a big slot and give him those Thielen reps. And he kind of really didn't do anything, it was kind of garbage time. But Coker, he ran a nice out route, dropped Kyler Gordon on the ground and caught it, got hit, bounced off that and gained 35 yards with like 15 of it after catch. And so once you make those plays, they're going to reward you with more opportunity. So, and I think it's just a matter of taking advantage of opportunities. But I want you to speak on that, just like, of course, the lack of expectations, like you said. But what was he able to do that made him so effective? Like, what is it about him that's allowed him to kind of have that, I guess, rookie year where he really came on the scene?
Self-awareness. When you're not the greatest athlete, right? You're not Tyreek Hill. You're not this explosive, dynamic receiver. The fact of understanding how to use tempo and release packages, footwork, like the nuance and detail stuff at playing receiver, that stuff matters a lot. You know what I mean? We fawned over the 40 times. We about to do it all over again in a couple weeks at the combine, right? I always tweet out, guys, what happens here doesn't always dictate success. And nobody's running on the football field from a 3-point stance anyway. You know what I mean? Besides the defensive line. So it's like, it's one of the most useless things in the world to me. But for him, is that he understands how to out-leverage DBs, how to attack guys, angling, like using his route stem to put himself in successful situations. He's very patient as a route runner. You see that. He's patient until he needs to be sudden. Now, and for me, that's why I think the slot role, I know like Adam Thielen, being there, it has been Bryce's security blanket. I think that's going to be Jaylen Coker going forward. I think it should be Jaylen Coker going forward. Not saying that he can't take some snaps outside. I think, honestly, Canales should mix him and Xavier Legette. You want to get that deep fade, that slot fade going? I'm putting Legette right there and having him run that slot fade and let him outrun that smaller nickel corner and let him get that advantageous size matchup. 9 times out of 10, regularly, I want to move the chains the same way Adam Thielen gets open on those crossers and those sit routes and everything else to rub the mesh concepts and everything. Jaylen Coker can do the exact same stuff, just in a bigger frame because he's 6'3", 215. Yeah. And it's like, it's hard to play through his frame because he's big and strong, and he knows how to get open. And I think giving him a two-way go and using him the way that Dave Canales did, and just in the spurts, I think that confidence grew to, okay, he's going to be an incremental piece to this offense in 2025. Like, no matter what we do, whether it's get T. Higgins, draft Ted McMillan, which I know a lot of the fan base, I don't know. I always tell you, fan base is different. Yeah, fan base is different because, like, I see some of the stuff on Twitter. I'm like, what is going on? But nonetheless, like, I think, whatever you do at receiver to give Bryce another big body like X receiver, I think Coker and Xavier Legette, those two, their skill sets mesh well. And then now, to me, you just need to get that big X. I think Coker did a good job just showcasing, hey, I know how to win. You give me one-on-one. Let me be a route runner and a big body receiver, and I can make plays for you.
Yeah, I think like you said about the slot, he's like crafty and like, and obviously you get good route runners in the slot. That's kind of what they do with those smaller, shiftier guys. But I think just the way he's able to, like I said, attack leverage and stem and stuff like that, it's just something that nickels aren't always used to, especially from that frame. You know what I'm saying? So I just think, I agree. I love the idea of him being that future slot, especially with him, the type of route runner he is. I think that's why him and Bryce mesh pretty well. He's a dependable type of guy. He's going to be where he's supposed to be. And an anticipatory thrower like Bryce, that's exactly what he needs. He needs a guy that's going to be where he's supposed to be. So he's what I would call he's a landlord. Like, he gets to his landmarks and he owns it. So it's like, that's what Bryce needs from his receivers is get to your spot. So I can get the ball to you. He's going to anticipate, especially on those crossers and stuff across the middle of the field. I'm going to anticipate that on time. You just get there. If you get there, I'll get it to you. Yeah. And I'm excited about what he can do in the second year. But like you said, once people see the film, they're like, you're not surprising nobody next year, right? So it's time to really show.
Expectations now, baby.
Yeah. So with expectations, sometimes can come disappointment or whatever. So we'll see what happens. Shout out to the chat right now. Appreciate everybody. Make sure you guys are giving the video a thumbs up. We have 166 people in here now, so y'all filing in. I appreciate it. We have Damian Parson, Draft Extraordinary. You can follow him at DP_NFL on social media, getting all the draft takes. He is offensive draft analyst, what you say? Yeah, for
Yeah,
Bleacher Report. So
Bleacher Report.
shout
Yes,
out to him and Bleacher Report. You know, I do the Wednesday live stream as well. So shout out to the Bleacher Report on that. Shout out to the super chat as well. Trap Set Player said, "What up, Dunk? Shout out to you for being consistent. Consistency is the key to the game, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate that super chat and the support. Got to give y'all a round of applause like I always do.
Sure.
If y'all want to show some support, you can leave a super chat. Easiest way to get your comment shouted out. So I appreciate that. But dang, we're going to keep it rolling a little bit. Just real quick about JT Sanders, the tight end, because right now he's the only tight end under contract on our team right now. Tommy Tremble is a guy that I would be interested in bringing back, but you never know what can happen when guys hit free agency. We'll talk about the strengths of this draft class, but there's some opportunities there to add some guys. I just want to get your thoughts on what you saw from him as a rookie and what you think projection wise, because I know you on the Locked On, you and Keith talked about him a little bit in preseason and stuff and just his potential role. But I just want to get your thoughts about what you saw from him as a rookie.
I think he showcased enough to where you feel comfortable with him as tight end one, in my opinion. In terms of that, he's the type of guy that like that pass catching profile, big, strong frame, can work and control the middle of the field between the numbers, the quick game, get him the ball, he can get yards after the catch, and he showcased that. And I think the biggest thing for him was like improving as a run blocker, because I didn't think that it was hey, he's not strong enough or he just can't do it. It was just a fact of like it was more so technical, like hand placement, punch timing, not overextending yourself to where these edge rushers and defensive ends, they stack and shed you quickly. I think be able to drop his anchor, get his hips low, and then run his feet, those type of things is coachable stuff, right? It's long as he, like I always say, run blocking is like defense in basketball. Like, yeah, it takes skill, but it takes will. Like if you will do it, we can get it done. But I think that's the main thing for him is just like continuing to improve as a run block. And I think this is a guy that could be a favorite target of Bryce, that another safety blanket, if you will, especially on those third downs. Tight end is the biggest mismatch in the NFL.
Yes.
Like they are the biggest mismatch. There's no bigger mismatch in the league or in sports than the tight end, because either these guys are 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", and they run like big wide receivers. So it's like either you can put a nickel who's too small, a safety who's too small, or a linebacker who's not athletic enough. Either way, you can get that isolated matchup. And I think that's where I think the development with him in this offense can really be this year, is start using him as kind of that pre-snap indicator. Okay, is it man? Give him, I always say, off play callers, use pre-snap motion. It used to piss me off watching Cliff Kingsbury not use pre-snap motion in Arizona for Kyler, because I'm like, yo, like you can't figure out what the defense is in. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like you just stagnant. Like no, move guys, get some motion going, and because that gives your quarterback those easy answers to the test. And I think that's going to be a big thing going forward. And the more weapons you put around, the less one player has to do all by themselves. And then that's when you become a situation of, you know what? We got to defend everybody. And like that's when your offense is most dangerous. When the defense breaks the huddle and it's not, hey, where's Waldo? Where's Tyreek Hill? Where's Justin Jefferson? Where's Jamar Chase? It's you got him, I got him. We got to get to our spots, because any of these guys can get the football and get open at any time. I think JT showed that he can do that. And I'm actually excited to see what Canales could do with him this year.
Yeah, the 50-50 scenarios was really what kind of not surprised me, but like some of the catches he came up with, man, just jump ball scenarios. Because I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit disappointed in his athleticism and how it translated. I thought he was a better athlete. Even when he tested bad, I was like, that's not what I see on tape. And kind of in the league as well is kind of similar. Obviously, he can run. We saw him against the Saints. He leapt over the Honey Badger, absorbed the hit, and just kept it pushing. But in terms of like being a smooth athlete and running routes, there were some limitations that I wasn't really expecting, just because it seemed like when in Texas, him running the seam, him catching those leak routes and in flats, and it could be a usage thing as well. But I just thought it would be a little bit more upside on that way. But of course, once you get into an NFL program, if they can get him in the weight room and get going, because he doesn't seem like the most muscular guy. He seems a little bit soft in the midsection and the arms. You get him in a full off season, man, and get him going. I think he can really round into shape and be an effective weapon. But just moving on to the Panthers. team needs, because we're about to talk about the draft, and we have a lot more money than draft. I mean, a lot more draft picks than money. So 9 draft picks, we're gonna have to really, really put in work there. It's the easiest way to get cheap talent is the draft. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think would be probably the top 3 needs? You don't have to put them in order if you don't want to. It may be pretty obvious to you, so you can put it in order. But what do you think the 3 biggest team needs are for the Panthers this offseason?
Edge rusher for sure.
Yeah.
I think y'all can use another safety in this defense. And then I'll go wide receiver. Not in a specific order. Edge rush is number 1 to me. Edge rush, D-line is number 1. Got to get a guy that can consistently get into the backfield on third downs, get to Michael Penix, get to Derek Carr, whoever's under center in at the Saints, get to get to my guy Baker Mayfield in Tampa. Like I always say that those key third down rush guys are like having that bucket getter in basketball. You know what I mean? I'm a Detroit Piston fan, right? Like LaMelo Ball, if you need either with LaMelo Ball, he can score for you or he can kick it out. So it's like having that guy that can control the game on those key third downs where the offensive line breaks the huddle. They're looking for him. Like, okay, where is Mike Green? Where is Abdul Carter? Those type of guys. And I think that's the number 1 need for this defense is the way did you stop points? You got to get in the backfield, and you got to get to the quarterback, make them uncomfortable, make them hear your footsteps and feel your presence from the open and snap. And so I think, like I said, edge, wide receiver, and safety. I think safety, adding another safety will be good for this defense, especially a guy that can kind of play with range over the top. You know what J.C. Horn is. I think you guys got I think it's Michael Jackson from Seattle who played good football for y'all this year for the most part. So getting a nice safety, rangy safety in the back end could do a lot of good things.
Yeah, and just like the tight end room, safety, we're starting from scratch. Xavier Woods is a free agency. Jordan Fuller, he's out of there. Nick Scott, he's out of there. Damani Richardson, who was an undrafted free agent, who actually he's a player, man. I don't know if I let him compete. I wouldn't hang my hat on him as being like the guy, but on film, he clearly sticks out getting to the football. But when he arrives there, he's the only one that I see actually popping pads. And he missed some tackles, obviously, just because he's getting stiffed arm by, I forgot who he played. And I think it might have been Saquon that got him one time pretty good. But it's the best back in the league.
That's Super Bowl champion, man. That's Super Bowl champion, man.
Right. But, I mean, he's coming correct. He's running his feet. He's using his shoulder pads and stuff like that. Just a pretty accurate tackle.
He did that at Texas A&M. If that's you said Damani Richardson. He did that at Texas A&M. He was a heavy hitter there.
And that's his guy. He's been a ball hawk. He was a ball hawk in training camp and preseason. He had a pick. I think that was – I don't know who it was. It was Kurt or somebody. I know it was Kyler to seal the game when we beat the Cardinals. So I like him as well, but we're going to have to redo that safety room, and I think this is a good time to do it. So I guess, like I told you, we have about $20 million in cap space, 9 picks. I guess, how would you allocate your efforts, just knowing the strengths of this draft class, knowing what we need, and what would you allocate as far as money and as far as picks? Because like you said, you thought that $100 million to get the guards was well worth it. Is there something that you think we should do money-wise, like, hey, pay the price? You know what I'm saying? You may have to pay a little bit of a luxury tax, but you need to get this done. So what do you think as far as that?
In free agency, I think you allocate that money and you send Joe Burrow a get well card, and you go get his big body receiver T. Higgins. Like, you know what I mean? He wants T. Higgins back really bad. I'm paying T. Higgins to come back to the Carolinas. He played at Clemson. Come back home. Come back to the area. You know the area well. Because for me, it's like if you get a T. Higgins at 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", 200-plus pounds with his long arms and his leaping ability and contested catch ability, that's when you really, to me, unlock Bryce. Because then that gives Bryce that outside weapon that you can throw the back shoulder fades to. You could how many times have we seen with Mike Evans in y'all division, no matter who's that quarterback, just toss it up. Mike Evans is down there somewhere, man. He might not even be open, but he's down there somewhere. And I just feel like getting Higgins, because he's going to be a free agent unless they tag him. I don't know how that situation feels very toxic to me if they tag him. Yeah. These agents don't like that. These players don't like. I don't know how it's going to play out. But if he hits free agency and he doesn't go back to Cincinnati, I'm opening the checkbook and I'm giving him what he needs, because that's going to help Bryce, because then you don't need to draft Titor McMillan. Then you can, at number 8, you take a Mike Green. You know what I mean? Because I think he will be there as Abdul Carter is the first, be a top 5 pick, first edge off the board. Mike Green is my edge 2 right now. So you'll be able to get him and bring him in as that that bucket getter. Third downs, you unleashing Mike Green and letting him fire off the edge and go get the quarterback. So I think that's why I'm looking at it. For me, is just you need to, because it's not like, again, for the needs you have, it's like, what edge rusher is available right now? Oh, okay, Myles Garrett. What are you going to give up for Myles Garrett? A lot. You know what I mean? Like a whole lot to get Myles Garrett. So it's like, it's not really a true edge out there on free agency that you really say, you know what, this guy's going to make the biggest difference, and we have to pay him top tier dollar. So it's like, for me, it's like, do I rather, I think, and I see the chat. So they're like, yeah, don't want to pay $30 million to Higgins. Okay, listen, I'm telling you, y'all fan base, and we're going to talk about it. But I think for me, it's like, I'd rather get T. Higgins so I can get the best defensive player available at 8. You got a top 10 pick in a very strong defensive class. At the top of this draft, you want to get a guy who's going to come in day one and be an impact player for this defense. That's another way to help Bryce. I feel like helping Bryce kill two birds with one stone. Pay T. Higgins, draft a legitimate playmaker at 8 defensively on that D line, and you prosper, because Bryce doesn't have to worry about the defense giving up nearly 600 points for the season, and he can go up there and he can start averaging 24, 25 points with T. Higgins. I'm telling you, if Joe Burrow is getting on the Cincinnati Bengals and saying, I want my guy here, I think you might want to go get that guy from him.
Hey, you make a good point with that part, because Joe was down in New Orleans at the Super Bowl radio row putting a lot of pressure on a organization that, let's be honest, they one of the cheaper organizations in the league. They play these contract situations hard all the time. They just let Jesse Bates walk recently because they didn't want to pay him. They haven't paid Jamar Chase yet. Yeah, and so he was applying a lot of pressure. So
ton of pressure.
I agree. If he means a lot that much to Joe Burrow, there's a number 9 in Carolina could definitely use some help as well. But in terms of like just his outlook of being a wide receiver one, really quick, because that's what everybody's concern is. They don't want to pay him 30 because they don't think he's that guy. He's been on number 2. We haven't really seen a wide body of work with him without Chase. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think he could be a wide receiver one for sure. And I think this isn't a situation where he's going into like a terrible wide receiver room. You have Jaylen Coker. You have Xavier Legette. You have, I think, Adam Thielen. Is he still under contract? Yeah. So you have Adam Thielen. So like you have enough pieces that he's joining in, and he's just being the guy that pulls coverage from the rest of those guys. Adam Thielen, the way Dave Canales and Bryce Young, configure his routes and the concepts, they can get the ball to him. Like, I think that's the situation where, for me, I think T. Higgins can absolutely be that target hog down the field. Anytime about red zone, it's hard to run the ball in the red zone. You know what I mean? It's hard to throw the ball in the red zone. But when you got a guy that can dominate the catch point and make those, me and Keith always say this on the pod, wide receiver ones, that true X is when you just 3rd and 5, game is on the line, or 4th and 5. I got isolated one-on-one and I'm running a slant. Can you win that slant? And he can win those type of routes. He can win the slant. He can win down the field as well. And he's done it at a high rate. So it's like, for me, it's like, I get it. And again, at the end of the day, I understand the whole $30 million thing. I don't know his asking price. You know what I mean? I don't know his asking price. Last time, Piston fans were telling me they didn't want Brandon Ingram because they say he wanted $70 million a year because he's with Clutch Sports or whatever. And he just got broke off for 40. I'm just saying, you don't know until you know. And again, if Joe Burrow is so adamant about keeping him, it's a reason for that. This dude is that type of playmaker. Turn on the tape, watch him. He can ball, man. He doesn't have to come in and be Devontae Adams or Jerry Rice and command every single target. He's going to be a big-time piece that takes those number 1 corners. That's the guy they have to worry about every week. So you don't get the number 1 corners trying to take away Coker, Xavier Legette, which makes their jobs as second-year players that much more difficult.
Yeah. And I guess some people, we'll talk about it a little bit later, I guess. Just in terms of the draft. Let's talk about just some of the positions that are strong in this class. Because you talked about a very, very strong defensive class, but what are some other positions, well, and specifically on defense, that you see the depth in, and what are some guys that you just think that may not be the top 10 worthy, but there may be guys that, hey, if you do this in the first round Panthers, you can probably still find some quality contributors on day 2.
For sure. I think the edge and interior defensive line, they are so deep in this class. Like you're going to be able to get so much value on day 2 of this class of this draft. I think honestly, for the kind of spoiler for the podcast tomorrow, we and Keith talked about that. The best value on day 2, and it's going to be that defensive side of the ball. Like Mason Graham, Walter Nolan, and like Kenneth Grant, those are probably going to be guys that's off the board in round 1, in my honest opinion. When you look at T.J. Sanders from South Carolina, Omar Norman Lott from Tennessee, Derek Harmon, he's kind of teetered to that back end of the first, early second. I personally think he's going to be an early second guy. But a guy that I like a lot, I saw him down in Mobile, Darius Alexander from Toledo. Yeah, this dude knows how to win and knows how to win in both phases. The run game, the passing game. Like I said, seeing him down in Mobile, 6'4", 310, long arms, heavy-handed, but also quick. Like he's a guy, he's alignment versatile as well. When you think about being able to find those mismatches on the offensive line, he can play outside as a 5 to 6 tech, outside shade of the tackle, and win there. He had a rep in the low red zone in Mobile against Josh Connolly, the athletic tackle from Oregon. Double hand swipe, cleared him. It would have been a sack if they could hit the quarterback, right? Then you get him in 1-on-1s, and he's lined up as kind of that 3 tech 4-eye. And now he's attacking those interior offensive linemen. He's got the longer arms. He's stronger. He's getting up on them, getting into their chest. I think this is a guy, day 2, I think he's going to come off the board. He should come off the board early. Jordan Phillips from Maryland, 6'3", 320, physical, powerful dude, like can reset the line of scrimmage, the point of attack. I think this is a situation where the interior defensive line, because I know that's a spot that the Panthers need to address as well. Get Derek Brown back, maybe get a true nose. Deion Walker, I don't think Deion Walker was a projected first-round pick. I don't think he gets to the first round. I think he falls to day 2 just because of how Kentucky used him this year. They had him dropping off in coverage. They had him standing up as an edge rusher at 6'7", 345. I didn't really understand what was going on in Kentucky to be doing that type of stuff with the big defensive tackle, but they were just doing a lot with him. Joshua Farmer from Florida State, another big physical, strong guy with long arms. He had a good week in Mobile as well. You're talking about other positions that are strong and deep in this class. Edge, I think edge, day 2 of the edge. Don't get me wrong. Yes, Mike Green. James Pierce, one of my favorite edges in this class as well, from Tennessee. Abdul Carter, those guys are all in my top 3 to 4. But you talking about day 2, Donovan Ezeroku from Boston College had a strong week in Mobile. I think he only practiced 2 days and he was out of there. You know what I mean? He had that type of week. JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State, 6'5", 270, athletic, guy that can rush from a 2-point stance, from a 3-point stance. He's going to be able to set the edge in the run game. South Carolina kid, Kyle Kennard, can get after it off the edge as well. You're talking about getting a guy later on in the draft, Kamen Rucker, kind of that Carl Lawson type of build, that 6'2", 260, squatty, low to the ground, that can really play with powers. Sawed off edge rushers. Guy you probably can get 4th round unless he blows up the combine. He blows up the combine, he might be able to move himself up into the 3rd. But, I think when I look at defensively especially, it's edge and interior defensive line. Those 2 positions, I don't care if you're good, I still draft one. You know what I mean? I'm getting depth, man, because you watch. Listen, at the end of the day, it's a copycat league. What did we see from Philly on Sunday? I don't have to blitz. I don't have to send a blitz. Four-man rush all game. We can get back there. And they've been building through the trenches for the past couple drafts. Now they've been going to the same pipeline for the past couple drafts. Georgia. But still, they've built through the draft. Josh Sweat was one of their draft picks. Milton Williams another one of their draft picks. They've built so well through the draft, man. So I think that when you look at it, that's what you want to do, is improve the trenches and really be able to give yourself the ability to just drop 7 in coverage. Rush 4, drop 7, tight throwing windows with a lot of pressure. I think this draft class has it. Tight ends is a very strong position as well. Tight ends, running back. You guys, I think you with the second torn ACL from Jonathan Brooks, I would absolutely draft a running back in this class to pair with Chuba. And I honestly would get somebody that's very twitchy, explosive, just that change of pace, because Chuba, who has breakaway speed, he's more of that physical between the tackles running now. Get somebody that's going to complement him very well. RJ Harvey from UCF, saw him down in Mobile. Trevor Etienne from Georgia. Those type of guys, if you want that pass catcher.
Brashard Smith, I saw.
Yeah, Brashard Smith. They had no answer for him. Yeah. You know what I mean? They had no answer for him in Mobiles. The one-on-ones was just truthfully not fair to those linebackers. It didn't work out well. Those guys were grasping for air.
He's a former receiver, man, and that's the thing. I'm bullish on Brooks. I was bullish when he came out. Obviously, a second ACL. You might as well draft a running back in this class. But I think Brashard Smith brings a skill set as that receiver type that even if he comes back, he can be the running back 3. He can be a guy that you split out in the backfield, or it can be that. And I think Sean Payton talked about that joker type of player. You talked about tight end, where somebody that you don't have you don't want to commit a DB to guard a running back because you need those guys in coverage. But if you put a linebacker on them, it's over. So there's just somebody we just need those type of chess pieces. And you saw Bryce play with Gibbs in college. That was something that they featured underneath the coaches. The offensive coordinator slipping my mind. Bill O.B. Just somebody that they featured there, and we saw Gibbs be a factor. So it's not Bryce. It's not something that Bryce is unfamiliar with. So, and like I said, I just think those type of guys are somebody that if we add, we don't have to use high draft capital either. You could spend a 4th or 5th on some guys. We saw the Bucs.
In this class, you might could use a 6 and get one of those guys. To be completely honest.
And we saw this
is that type of class.
And I'm seeing it, and I'm kind of going through running backs myself currently, and I came across RJ Harvey just randomly. The production is crazy, and he's 5'8", 200, but he's just a different type of guy. He has that wiggle in the hole, and I was low on Bucky Irvin coming out, but he was a 4th-round pick, and he probably the best rookie running back in this class.
He ran like a 4.5 something in the 40, and people dropped him immediately, and you're going to be that small, you got to be super explosive. They did the same thing to Kyron Williams. You know what I mean? That's why I consistently say that 40-yard dash time is one of the most overrated tools in the entire process, because you judge play speed. When I'm watching the guy on film, you got to judge the play speed. When you see guys move at just a different speed, and then, of course, being at the Senior Bowl, seeing these guys in person, Brashard Smith is dynamic. That's one of those guys, again, I'm just what I call is getting Bryce type of guys. That's a Bryce guy, where Bryce can motion him out, get him up on those linebackers. He can run that option route. Once Bryce, because that's one thing about Bryce. And they talked, Jaden Daniels was the same thing. I heard this pre-draft, and it showed up this year. If they identify what you're in and you stay in it, you're cooked. They're going to get you. You know what I mean? It's Bryce be able to motion out a running back into the slot, go 3-by-1 set, and the running back's on the linebacker, and you're running an option route. And I know that linebacker can't cover. So y'all in man, all right, say less. You know what I mean? But then if you be motioning them out and you switch to zone, I used to watch that with Tom Brady all the time. I'll never forget when they played the Steelers in the AFC Championship game or the playoffs one year, and they came out in 12. Tom Brady looked over the field. He saw the defense. They wasn't heavy, and I remember the exact audible too. He called Jordan, and they went spread, but they went spread where the tight ends were out wide and the slot receivers were inside. So then they put the Steelers in conflict, because now you got James Harrison at 34 years old dropping off in coverage. You have a corner trying to figure out, do I go inside with Julian Edelman and Danny Amendola? Do I stay outside to Gronk? That's what they did. They kept the corners outside. They went to zone. He hit a seam route to Chris Hogan for a 30-yard play. And it's being able to put defenses into panic situations with pre-snap movement and with your personnel.
Yeah, just stressing the defense, man, giving them a lot to think about, giving them a lot to account for, like you said, breaking the huddle, having to identify, okay, where is so-and-so lining up. And I just think that's something that's missing from the Panthers right now. If we do swing and miss on those big type of wide receivers. I think there's some things that they could do in the draft. I talked about Isaiah Bond. I know he's kind of a hot button topic because the production just wasn't there. But this is a guy that has a lot of speed, man. He's a great route runner. I think he just needs some opportunities. He played a year with Bryce before. I think he's the type of guy that has a lot more upside in the league. And then we talked about Brashard or RJ or even a tight end that's maybe a better route runner. May not be the blocker, but just guys that you can use and just kind of do it by committee. Because like you said, Bryce is a point guard. Those dominant target type of receivers that's going to demand the ball, or AJ Brown type that's going to read a book on the sideline, may not be for
DK
him.
Metcalf, no. I saw some of the comments. No, that's a guy that wants the ball. And I don't want Bryce having a guy who's going to be that demonstrative on the sideline, in the locker room. We praise that Antonio Brown mentality or that dog mentality or that diva mentality from wide receivers until they become a problem. I don't want Bryce to have to deal with that and navigate that. No, let him just play ball. Let him not deal with the politics of this guy's upset on the sideline stuff. No, forget all that. Give him guys that can get the ball where they need to be. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing, in my opinion. And honest to God, it's getting, like I said, because I saw the chat, somebody was like, yeah, get DK for a third and different stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, it sounds good on paper, but you got to deal with when Bryce misses him on the deep ball where he knew he should have scored, right? Because at the end of the day, these receivers, it's not just the numbers, it's the fact that their numbers convert into contract dollars. Yep. So it's like, when we watch the Netflix series Wide Receiver, you see Devontae Adams about to throw his helmet into the stands because Jimmy Garoppolo missed him on the goal ball. You know what I mean? On different things like that. So I'd rather get somebody for Bryce where he fits the culture. He fits what you want. Bryce doesn't need the dominant, guy. He just needs shooters. He's a point guard. Get him shooters. Spread the floor. Spread the defense out. I think that's what you need to do for Bryce. You don't need to get a true dominant target hog. That's why I think the T. Higgins makes a lot of sense, because T. Higgins is not that type of personality. Yeah. He'll dominate and he'll make all the plays that you need him to make, but if he doesn't get the ball, he's not going to go to Bryce on the sideline at 6'5", and Bryce is 5'10", and it just, you know how the media works. That first interaction, it was like, I don't know if this is going to work, man. No, get somebody that fits to be that shooter for Bryce. And I think they're doing that. Then I just got to consistently finish the job.
Yeah, I agree. And we kind of saw that to a lesser extent with Deontay, and it not work out. I think there was some stuff behind the scenes that we're not privy to, but we don't have to get too deep into that. So shout out to everybody in the chat, man, for tuning in. Make sure you guys give the video a thumbs up. We're rocking with Damian Parson. He is draft analyst extraordinaire at DP_NFL on all social media. He is working for Bleacher Report as an offensive draft analyst. We got a couple super chats. Some of them are kind of scattered. Some of them are some spoilers, so I'm not going to get to it all the way. But shout out to Knucklehead K. We'll get to this. He said, so I'm noticing lately, I sad to say, but a lot of our Panther peers are the Lulu. Tet is gone, gonna be gone at 8. Miles G gone, gonna cost more than T. We got a dream, bro. This is time for delusion. Everybody 0-0. The Super Bowl is gone. This is the perfect time for delusion. The perfect time for delusion. I saw the rumors about Myles Garrett being in Charlotte for whatever reason. I don't know why he would be in Charlotte. I'm reading into everything this time of year. You know what I'm saying? So don't try to rain on the parade, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Knucklehead K, on that one. But I just think that, man, they getting a big time wide receiver one this offseason would be big, but if not, the committee approach, we've seen it have mixed results in Green Bay. Obviously, they've had some drop issues, but I think it's a decent way to go about it if you don't want to get that money. And obviously, you got Josh Jacobs campaigning for Devontae throwing the whole receiver room 100%. Under the bus. But it is what it is. But at number 8, the Panthers have a top 10 draft pick, Dame. So, unfortunately, this is a familiar spot. We're in the top 10 a lot. We were at 9, and we traded up to get Bryce. We took J.C. Horn at 8. We took Derek Brown at 6. We took 6 or 7. We took Icky at 6. So this is not a spot we're unfamiliar with, but it feels like this year is a year that, I don't know, with the way that the class is and the depth of it, should the Panthers just be locked in on a defensive player? Is it defense no matter what? I heard you mention Mike Green, but Tate McMillan is out there, and like I said, I feel like the path of least resistance to get a potential wide receiver one may be the draft, and then with the depth, you may feel good about going day 2 and using even day 2 and early day 3 on defensive guys and still getting contributors, because that's how bad the talent level on this defense is, that you may be able to find guys that can come in from jump on later days and contribute. So I just want to get your thoughts on what you think the Panthers should lean towards at number 8. I know you guys had a mock recently with Bleacher Report. I can't remember. I think they took Jaylen Walker, I think might have been, or somebody on the defensive side.
Walker,
but what do you think? They should lock in on defense, or you like potentially Tet?
I mean, I think best player available, right? Like whether it's Tet or an edge. I think in this particular situation, I think with Tet, and I was gonna say, I've seen like some of the Panther fans like have concerns about him. Some people say he like doesn't come down with contested catches, and I think me and Monty was talking about it, and I'm like, where is this coming from? Like, you know what I mean? The numbers don't even back that up. Like, he's really good in the contested catch situation, and he played with a very inaccurate quarterback situation. Honestly, the last 2 years, Arizona has not had a good quarterback. So I think if you can get Tet McMillan at 8, and like I said, the edge rush is deep. So you could go edge, interior defensive line, different things like linebacker, all that day 2, second, third round, and you will be very pleased and happy with it. I think putting Tet in this offense, this guy's alignment versatile. So you're talking about creating mismatches against smaller nickels. Oh, 100%. Not just Jaylen Coker. Not like that. This will be a nickel corner's nightmare, because with the way that Dave Canales can put guys, when you got 6'5", 215-pound Tet McMillan, 6'1", 215, 220 Xavier Legette, and the 6'3", 215 Jaylen Coker, and you potentially could be hit with either one of those guys in the slot, that's a difficult ask for a 5'9", 190-pound, 80-pound nickel corner. So with his ability to make plays at the catch point, one of the most underrated parts of his game is his ability to make people miss and create yards after the catch.
Yes.
He's smooth. He's sudden. As a route runner for 6'5", to sink his hips at the top of the route and not take 2 million steps to work back or to gear down, he can accelerate well and decelerate well. So I think he can walk in and be a true number 1 wide receiver, especially for a team like this where I would love to see him catch passes from Bryce Young. You know what I mean? Because he needs a quarterback that's more accurate to give him the football, the ways that he gets open. So I think, if it's a situation where you're just looking at it, you survey the board at number 8, it's all about who's the highest on your board, in my opinion. If Tet's the highest on your board, run the card up. If Mike Green's the highest on your board, run the card up. If Nick Scourton is the highest on your board, run the card up. Whoever's the highest on this coaching staff and scouting department's board, that's the decision they need to make for going forward. I say you go best player available. If you miss in free agency, it's fine. I'm not trying to win the Super Bowl in 2025. Yeah. I'm trying to make this thing as competent and complimentary as possible for my young quarterback.
So a lot of the pushback that I see on Twitter is, we don't need another big body receiver. Tet can't separate. What else did they say about him? I see people talking about his hands, but that's completely untrue. Tet plucks the ball out of the air. I don't know where that comes from. He has phenomenal hands, actually, in that standpoint. And I understand the concerns with Legette, but I think the biggest thing is that archetype of being that bigger body receiver. And even somebody here asked, like, what's the difference between him and a Keon Coleman? And I just think that, he is a big body receiver, and we do have Legette, who is that similar type, but I think people are like, we took Mingo because of his size, and we passed on smaller guys like Downs or Jalen Reed or whoever who might have been a better route runner. We took Legette and we passed on the smaller route runner like Lad McConkey or stuff like that. They're caught in that standpoint. So can you talk about, like, if there's any concerns with you with Tet as far in terms of separation, and what do you think differentiate him from that archetype of a Xavier Legette or a Keon Coleman, like somebody asked about?
Like, he runs good routes. Like, he separates well at the top of his routes. The one thing I would critique on him, and I think I did in my report over at Bleacher Report, is at the line of scrimmage, I want to see him use his hands a little more against press corners. You talking about dealing with the Travis Hunters and different long arm corners who want to stab and go and try and mirror you after that, disrupt timing. Especially if you go to Carolina, you're playing with a timing quarterback like Bryce. They're going to be like, defenses are going to take that timing away. Mm-hmm. So I just want to see him use his hands more. We teach wide receivers against press coverage, feet first, hands second. You want to move their base, and you want to use your hands to counter their punches. And I think if he's able to do that, I think that's going to really, because the verdict, he's not going to run now he's got long stride. He might hit 4.4. Who knows? But like, that's going to be, I don't think he's going to hit it. But like, people, if he hits 4.55, 4.52, people are going to jump off a cliff and be like, yeah, I'm out on him, right? All right, cool. That's fine. But if you are, I think Devontae Adams ran a 4.55 or 4.52 coming out of college. So it doesn't really matter. It's all about how do you win against those press corners, and it starts at the line of scrimmage. If you're savvy and nuanced enough to be able to jab step a guy, hand swipe him, and get into your route, guess what? You stacked him. You don't have to be the fastest guy in the world to do so. So I think that's the one thing I would knock on him, is just improving that release package and his hand usage at the line of scrimmage. But comparing him to Keon, he's smoother than me, in my opinion. He's a much smoother mover and route runner. The ability to sink and drive and work back. He catches the ball away from his frame, and he has, to me, a much bigger catch radius. He can leap, but also you're talking about being able to fully extend with his wingspan and his frame. Like, yeah, he can open up the throwing window and extend the throwing window for Bryce, where like Leggett is 6'1". The South Carolina State was 6'3". When we got to the Senior Bowl and heard 6'1", everybody was shocked. It was like, whoa, wait a minute. You know what I mean? So having, like, that's one of the biggest differences. He's an actual 6'4" wide receiver that I don't think we have to worry about his measurements being wrong.
Yeah, admittedly, I'm a big Tet fan, and there's like this documentary that I guess somebody from Arizona's doing, and he's in Arizona training with like Mason Graham, Will Johnson, Ollie Gordon. They're all out there, and like just watching him move. I don't think he'll run a 4.4, but in terms of just being smooth and like, no knock on Leggett, but he can run kind of clunky at times. But that's because he's a little bit more muscled up than Tet. He's a lot smoother of a mover at his size, and nobody's really dropped the comp. I don't know what I would pick as a comp. I know I hear London a lot, and I didn't really watch London coming out, so I wouldn't say that. And he doesn't really separate deep as much as this guy, but I see, like, in terms of just being long and lanky, I see the T. Higgins or even like an AJ Green type of guy that, as far as that stride and just how he moves and can stop and start a little bit more than you would expect the guy his height to be. So,
he works the areas of the field that Bryce lives at, the middle of the field. Bryce loves the middle of the field throws. And you talking about being able to run the ball, force defenses. When you run the ball, it makes it hard on the defense to play man. Because you never know, like, if my corner's turning it back to run vertical with a receiver and we're running the ball, they don't know the ball is being ran. They don't know what's coming. You know what I mean? So then you force him in the zones, and then him as a big body weapon, he gets into the crevices of the zone coverage, settles in, and he's 6'5". So Bryce is going to be able to see him, get the ball to him. And again, I think you just widen out the defense and just put more – you make them have to defend you honestly to where it's like, we can't just double one guy, right? Even if Adam Thielen's still getting heavy slot snaps over Coker and Xavier Leggett, it doesn't matter. Like, you can't just double one guy. You have to play everybody the same.
Yeah, I agree. Just like I said, just he opens things up for everybody, and that's the type of thing. Just the residual effects from adding guy. He may not have to get the ball to have an effect on the offense, and I think that's what you want to see from any kind of player that you add, especially
for sure
when you're talking like a potential wide receiver one, that type of stuff. But just again, resetting here, you guys make sure you give the video a thumbs up. We are rocking with my guy Damian Parsons, the draft extraordinary. You can find him at DP_NFL. Rocking with Bleacher Report. We're talking about the Panthers options at number 8. So I've been seeing a lot of mocks, and I've seen some opportunities where a guy like Mason Graham has fallen. Do you think it's actually realistic that Mason Graham could fall? And like, let me get your thoughts, because he's to me, and I haven't dove deep into Mason Graham, but I just looked at some reports about him, and just, that's kind of what I do. I kind of prime myself. I see the internet clips and stuff, obviously that, but you talked about a Bryce guy. I think about a Najiro Evero guy that plays those odd fronts that's going to need guys to stack and shed. I know he can stack and shed, but on a down-by-down basis with Mason Graham, what are your thoughts about him fitting into this defense? Because apparently it seems like his arms are going to be a little bit shorter on the short side, and he's just not that. To me, when I see a top 10 pick, and obviously this dude shouldn't have failed here, but I'm thinking, what is the upside for this guy? Derek Brown, he had that dominant elite upside. And I saw that. But you see a guy like Jaylen Coker get picked at number 9. Like, these guys are physically imposing. So that's my concern with Mason Graham. Is he going to be just a good, solid pro? Or does he have a guy that has that upside to be one of those elite guys in that field that can come in and have that effect inside? So what do you think about his fitness, eye front, a Jerry Vero type of defense?
I think it fits well, especially on rundowns, because at Michigan, like, and I told people this, just watching him over the summer. When you watch him on tape, Kenneth Grant is like 6'3", 6'4", like 340. But Mason Graham's the one getting double teamed. Yeah. Like they'll leave everybody else one-on-one, but they'll send as much bodies at Mason Graham as possible. And it's mainly because even though he's going to have the shorter arms, he's probably closer to 6'2" than 6'3". He's going to be a little bit shorter. 320 pounds looks about right for him, or 315, somewhere in there. Ideally, you want him, if he's going to play in the odd front, you want him at that 4-eye 5 tech.
Okay.
In the even front, you want him at that 3 tech. Yeah. Because he's been handling double teams the last 2 years at Michigan. Yeah. He's been the guy that offensive line had been game planning for, and he's still wrecking shop. Like, he's so strong. I love watching the interior defensive linemen that can disassociate upper body from lower body. We call it corkscrewing. Be able to turn the upper body against double teams, fight through, part the Red Sea. He does a great job of that. He blows up run games, and the rushing attack clogs lanes. But you get him on 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8, and you put him in that 3 tech spot, one-on-one with some guards. Oh yeah, he's gonna get back there. Matter of fact, he's the more complete version of Braden Fisk, who was with the Rams this year. Okay. Braden Fisk is taller because he was 6'5", tested like a linebacker and all that. He has shorter arms. But Braden Fisk isn't good against the run like that, where Mason Graham is. And then he also has that good first step, good hand usage, and everything like that. And I think he hasn't even reached his ceiling as a true pass rusher because he's been handling so many double teams and so much run game in the Big Ten, because, the Big Ten doesn't have a lot of quarterbacks. So they just run the ball all the time because they can't throw it. You know what I mean? So, I think that's a big thing for him, man. I think he's one of my blue chip players. Okay. I think this dude could be an absolute game changer. And I think if he fell to 8, I would not be opposed to drafting him. I would not. Evero, don't mess this up. Like, you get Mason Graham, don't screw this up. Put him at that, like I said, put him at the 5 tech. I honestly would look to try and bring back A'Shawn Robinson, let him play nose, and let Derek Brown play the other defensive end spot, or get a true nose. To then it's going to be very difficult to run on that defensive line. That 3-man run, that 3-man, because now you got all 3 guys can 2-gap. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And when you put Derek Brown and Mason Graham on the edge, they're dealing with more tackle tight end than guard center. Yep. You know what I mean? And that's where it's a total different ball game when you're dealing with that type of double team. So I think he's one of my blue chip players for sure. Yeah,
I just imagine them putting together with Derek Brown, man. Just it gets you excited, man, because Derek wasn't the guy that I thought playing a 5 or 4-eye would be something that he could do. But if you think about it, it was 6'5", 330 pounds. Like, he's just as long or longer than tackles. He's too strong for those guys, but he can stack and shed easily, and it's harder to double team him when he's out there on tackle. So I just thought him playing the eye front it's paid dividends for his career. I'm excited about potential of Mason Graham. So let's talk about the edge rushers, though, because you mentioned Mike Green being your edge 2. Now, he is a guy, I dropped the film breakdown. He's probably my edge 4 right now. Knowing the arm length, it's not something that I'm like, measurables aren't something that I just get tied up in. But when I see the limitations show up on film because of those measurables, that's why I get concerned, because sometimes when he lets guys get hands on him, it's hard for him to get off. He is a violent player, but having those shorter arms, having a little bit lighter, being a little bit lighter in the pants, when hands get put on him, sometimes he can get a little bit overwhelmed, but he sets the edge good. He plays with intensity. He plays with a lot more play strength than what his size would put on. He put on those, 15, 20 pounds before the Senior Bowl. Yeah. Why do you think he would be a good fit for us when like I said, we have a system where length has been a big thing. I don't think they've signed anybody with less than 33-inch arms since Vera has been here. So what do you think about his prospects in comparison to somebody like a James Pierce or a Jalen Walker, who's also I've seen in some mocks coming to us?
Yeah, I think with Mike Green, man, like seeing him come in at what 253, almost 255 at the Senior Bowl, seeing him in person, like he was well filled in from a body type standpoint.
Yeah.
But then the power he played with was outstanding. You know what I mean? Of course, the viral clip of him running through Josh Connolly's chest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As in from that, I think it was like a kind of a wide nine stance,
Mm.
and that first step, and his ability to convert speed to power. But he has more in his bag that I really liked with him as well, like that ghost move, to be able to force the offensive tackle to punch and the dip and rip, ability to get down low, spring back up, corner, get to the quarterback. And I think that he has enough in his bag to be a legitimate third down sack artist for this defense. But, compared to where I look at like James Pearson, I compare him to Brian Burns. Yeah. And I think for him it's more so because I think he's only 21. So he's still got time to fill out his frame. I think an NFL team is going to have to bulk him up just a little bit to handle the edge setting against the run in the NFL. We saw that this year. Teams ran the ball more this year than they did in previous years. So it's like drafting guys that can't set the edge is going to be a hard no for me. Like I'm going to draft you in rounds 3 and 4 where you're going to play DPR and not play 80% of our defensive snaps. I think James Pierce is my edge 3 or 4, one of the two.
Yeah.
And everything. And I think for him, watching his natural development this year, being able to use the speed rush to open up the inside rush and having multiple counters and different things like that. He was heavily pressuring quarterbacks this year. He didn't convert all those to sacks. He dominated Georgia. And if it wasn't for Carson Beck getting out of the pocket late, he would have had probably 2 or 3 sacks in that game, man. So I just look at it from an aspect of this. At 8 in this situation, you do want to go get that true edge guy. Losing Burns, you got Jadeveon Clowney. That was on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
You don't have a true edge. I mean, they drafted DJ Johnson out of Oregon when they traded up for him 2 drafts ago. That wasn't the greatest, decision. I wasn't really a big fan of that move, So I think just getting that guy that gives you multiple things. Speed, like Mike Green, speed around the edge, that spin move, that spin counter is legit that he has. And he knows how to set guys up with it. But then he's a 3-tooled rusher. He's got speed, he's got counters, and he's got power. And when you have those type of things, it converts to the league. He reminds me of, go back to the Rams, Byron Young, their edge rusher that they drafted 2 drafts ago. Yeah. Similar body type. Byron might have a little bit longer arms, but similar play styles as well. And I think he's a little bit more flexible with his ankle flexion and his hip fluidity.
Yeah. I think he's a little bit better of a rusher than Byron Young, but I think Young may be a little bit stronger, just in my opinion.
Yeah, Byron's strong. He's got that down south. I know where he's from. Yeah. He's from my neck of the woods. He's got that low country country boy strength. Like, 100%.
Yeah. And so I guess you talked about doing many things. And Jaylen Walker is very intriguing to me because some people say that, okay, he's just a tweener. If you look at his off-ball film, it's not that great and stuff like that. But when you just kind of turn on the Texas games, if you play Texas every week, he'd probably be a top 3 pick. But what are your thoughts about a guy like Jaylen Walker? And just because he can obviously get after at the edge, but he's a little bit shorter. He's 6'2", 245, and I think he's going to have longer arms. But what do you think about him? Because we've seen some versatile guys like Frankie Louvu who left for greener pastures because he wasn't really happy with Ejiro Evero's usage. We saw a versatile guy like Jeremy Chin who doesn't play edge per se, but wasn't seeing the field. And so what are your thoughts about just the versatility? Do you think he can kind of be one of those guys that, okay, hey, we try to play him too many places and he gets a master of none? Or do you think he has a future as a full-time agent? What do you think about him potentially being added to our group?
I like Jaylen Walker a lot. I call him the Tasmanian Devil. This dude's motor is unreal. And from an off-ball standpoint, he kind of gives you a very versatile piece. Whereas, hey, if you need him to play, especially on first and second downs, he plays the run probably as good as any linebacker in this class. He uses his arm length, his wingspan. He's physical and powerful, even at 245, to where he can shock and shed those climbing interior offensive linemen. If he strikes them early, he keeps them away from them and he keeps himself detached. Yeah. And then, of course, he can blitz through the A gaps if you play him at off-ball backer. but his ability to work off the edge, he's I would call him untapped in terms of pass rush ability.
Yeah.
Because he's so reliant on power and just long arm, like motor rush, power, and everything. I think it was the Notre Dame game, because I'm actually doing the breakdown on Jaylen Walker. It probably should be up either tomorrow evening or Friday morning on my YouTube channel, The Scouting Room.
Shout it out again. What's the ad?
The Scouting Room.
Okay.
At The Scouting Room. Yep, on YouTube. And I got Ashton Genty film on there. I broke down Marty Hampton a couple months ago. I just did Emeka Egbuka, comparing him a little bit to like Amara St. Brown and everything of what I like from Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. But I'm going to do a breakdown of Jaylen Walker. And I was watching the Notre Dame game, and they tried to – the left tackle tried to snatch trap him. I've never seen anybody counter the snatch trap. Like, he tried to snatch trap him, but he couldn't get him down. And he stayed up and just kept pushing his way in the backfield. I think for him, it's just like, man, if he starts adding double hand swipes, the club, the dip rip moves, and he start adding some of those finesse moves to his bag, this dude's going to be a problem, because he's, to me, he's built very similar to a Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson right now, a little bit later in his career, he's 6'2", 260, playing defensive end. You know what I mean? Where, like, look at Jaylen Walker, he's listed at 6'2", 245.
Yeah.
You can get him to 255, adding another 5 to 7 pounds, get him over 250, you feel good with it. He's really good on the edge, setting the edge against the run. You know what I mean? He's physical at the point of attack. I think he would be a good fit there. It's just more so, like you said, the Frankie Louvu situation, and like, does that make them covet that skill set more? Because he plays similar to Frankie Louvu. I think he might be a little bit more like rocked up from a physique standpoint. He's got a very muscular, powerful frame for 245.
Yeah, I gotta watch a little bit more of him. I think that's something that they will favor, just because. Just to give you a synopsis, last year we lost Frankie. Some of it was the system thing. Mm-hmm. There were some negotiations that kind of fell by the wayside. The Panthers kind of drug their feet on those negotiations, but it felt like they were kind of chasing his ghost, because they tried to make a play for Patrick Queen, a guy that's a pass rushing off-ball linebacker in free agency. They spent a lot of their premium luxury, I call it trash tax. They spent that on the offensive side of the ball. They couldn't really give Patrick that trash tax for him to want to come here. But then in the draft, there were rumors about them targeting Jaylen Coker, who was a guy that we saw able to get
that was my LB1.
Yeah,
my LB1 last year.
They kind of that trade back with the Rams that got them Fisk. They kind of wanted to get back in the second round. Obviously, that second round pick we gave up to get Bryce, they wanted to kind of get back. It was almost an offer they couldn't refuse. They moved back, and Jaylen Coker went one pick before. Obviously, we moved up to get Brooks, but once Jaylen Coker went, he was off the board. I think we moved up and got Brooks next then. But I think they're looking for that type of off-ball guy. I don't think that's really Trevor Wallace's game. I think they gambled on the traits, but I don't really see him as a blitzer like that. So I think that's something that they could be coveting.
He's more of a coverage backer than anything.
Yeah. And so I think that's something they could be coveting. Somebody in the chat asked about a potential trade back from 8. Shout out to Evans Boyle on the super chat. One time for the one time. He said, "What up? I'm late." He said, "But I keep thinking about trading back from 8 to 18 with Seattle for DK if the guys we like up top don't fall to 8. It's the equivalent to pick 40. Good edge rushers will be there." We talked about DK. Appreciate you, Evans, again on that super chat. Yeah. We talked about DK, so we kind of will leave that where it is. But in terms of moving back, that's the topic I want to think about, because some people are just like, no, Panthers, you need premium, you need good players. Like, don't overthink it, don't big brain it. Just do it. But at the same time, we need a lot of good players. So if you could pick up an extra second in this class that you're talking about is very deep, and we can get, maybe if Mike Green falls to the middle, we can get that. If James Pierce falls to the teams, we can do that. And then come back and double up with or we can go interior up front, then Walter Nolan falls to the middle, and we can come back with like a Princely in the second round, or a Kennard in the second round, or even that. So, like, what do you think about potentially trading back and trying to maximize the talent in this class defensively when the Panthers need that a lot? Do you think they would be better off just staying put and taking BPA, or is that something you would think about?
I just think it depends on who falls to 8, right? Like, I think if you get one of in a class that doesn't have as many blue chippers, if you get one of those blue chip guys, you run the card in. But if you can get a really good deal, like a good trade back situation, I'm not opposed to that at all. Because if you can trade into the teens, get an extra second, right? So now you have multiple day 2 picks, And now you get to really flush out the roster, especially defensively.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. Like, that's again going back to the T. Higgins thing. I know guys don't want to pay $30 million for T. I hear you. I'd rather go get T. Higgins and then use my draft capital on the defense. Get you another corner. Get you an off-ball backer on day 3. Get that interior defensive lineman and edge rushers in the same exact draft, and you have those young guys. And you swing enough times, you're gonna hit a ball, and that's just what it is. You swing enough, you're gonna hit, and you want one of those hits to be a home run. And I think for a team like the Panthers that has struggled drafting up until this past draft, I like what this past draft, what Dan Morgan has done, but the previous drafts have not been the kindest to this franchise. It's honestly set this franchise back. So, like, I think in that situation, you want to go ahead and just build, man. So, like, you need to hit your draft picks, hit as many of them as possible. And in this defensive heavy class, I'm not opposed to trading back because, like you said, if you trade back to 18, if for some odd reason the NFL teams let Walter Nolan, listen, again, I watched him in Mobile. This dude turns the corner like an edge rusher. Like it's freakish almost to watch him just move and the power he played with. Again, I watched him try to run on him. Didn't work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then when they tried to pass block him, couldn't do that either. Like, he is a total package at the interior defensive line spot. You look back at the Rams, and they have Kobe Turner, who they got out of Wake Forest. And I don't know how he fell to where he fell to, but he was a good player in college, and he's one of their best defensive players right now. So it's just a simple fact of if Walter Nolan is there, maybe even you look at a Kenneth Grant to be that true nose tackle at 340 pounds. If you move back and you get you get one of these defensive linemen that can make an impact out the gate, then you have yourself. I think you guys have what, second?
57.
Do you already have 2 seconds?
We have 57. Yeah. That's the.
So you get another second. Now you have 2 second-round picks in this draft, and you possibly can go corner and edge in the same round. Yeah, it's going to be some good edge rushers. Again, are there going to be edge rushers on the level of Abdul Carter? No. No. Like, the way Abdul Carter moves and the way he wins, absolutely just a whole different ball game, right?
Yeah.
But it's still Antoine Power. I saw somebody, what's up, Doug, brought up Kenneth Grant being at the Shrine Bowl. Oh, man, you mentioned Shrine Bowl. Cool. One of my guys who's out there, soon as they got there, he texted me. He said, bro, Kenneth Grant is a monster. And it was like not field stuff, just from a physique standpoint.
Yeah.
He was like, he's 340, but this isn't no big sloppy dude. He said he's well put together. He was like, yeah, no, he's probably going to get these offensive linemen some fits out here this week. And then again, like, you know what I mean, getting him and different things of that nature. Yeah, man, I just think Antoine Power-Ryland from Virginia Tech, you know, a guy that was one of the sack leaders this year, Donovan Ezeroku from Boston College. Yeah, you can absolutely turn this defense around by just nailing on a few of those nailing on day 1 and day 2 of the draft. And then you take some more developmental guys on day 3 in certain positions.
Yeah, Kenneth Grant, he was on the freaks list. Apparently at 340, he's supposed to be running sub 5. Is what they're talking about.
Listen, I think it was 2023. You type in Kenneth Grant. It should be on Twitter. He ran Katron Allen down when they played Penn State. Yeah, big boy can move. Like, he is athletic. He is strong. He is physical. I think Roadmaster said you don't need edge rushers. I do not agree with you. You absolutely need edge rusher. You know what I mean? I think y'all were like, if I remember correctly, y'all were down there in terms of sacks. I know, teams ran the ball on you, but you still don't have a guy to go get the quarterback. Like, still don't have a guy. The
pressure rate isn't up there, man. They're not affecting the quarterback, man.
Matter of fact, let me pull up some numbers real quick because I got the stuff.
They need to find difference makers up front. Clowney is 30-something years old. He doesn't need to be playing the volume of snaps that he played. Not to mention, he hasn't really played a full season in his career yet. Wanham, I understand Wanham came back. He had some fresh legs coming out, but these just aren't guys that are every play making a difference, putting pressure on quarterbacks, attacking the edges of tackles, just really kind of pressing and affecting the quarterback. And you need those type of guys. How many games did we have Bryce Young hits a go ahead touchdown against the Bucs just for Baker Mayfield to march down the field at the end of the game in 30 seconds and force it to overtime? You have your ends are losing contained. They're not getting pressure and collapsing in the pocket. You have the Chiefs game. Obviously, it's Patrick Mahomes, but you score and tie it up, and then Patrick Mahomes marches down the field in 30 seconds as well. Too many times we've seen the team not be able to close things out with having that pass rush, and that's where you need to be. We don't need to have it shouldn't take us 44 points to beat the Falcons. It shouldn't take Bryce Young having 5 touchdowns to beat those type of teams. Like, if you have guys that can get after the passer, it changes everything. That's why Abdul Carter is potentially the number 1 overall pick. It's not because of his the ability against the run. It's because he can get after the quarterback, man. Like, I think we've just as a franchise, and you talked about it, how the fan base is sometimes with players. Like, I just think we've been so accustomed to, and I hate to be mean, to mid, that we get satisfied with just. We get satisfied with mid. We've been so accustomed to bad players that when we get mid, we're cool with it. And it's not. People are telling me we're set on offense, but we're not. We need more explosive weapons. People are telling me we need to go all defense. Yeah, but you got to elevate the talent on offense as well. You have a quarterback. This is a scoring league. We're bottom of the league in points scored. We're bottom of the league in a lot of metrics. Like, this team needs talent overall, so I don't think we're in a position to turn our nose up at any position if they're the best player on the board. But go ahead.
Listen, bro, I'm looking. I got some numbers, from my man who, he Roadmaster said y'all on the edge. So on true drop back sets, true pass sets, you had 27 of your 33 sacks on true drop back pass sets. That still puts you near the bottom of the league. You only had 94 pressures. You know what I mean? Out of your I think it's like 137 for the year. Like, yeah, you didn't have a guy. You had one guy over 6 with 6 sacks. No one else. A'Shawn Robinson tied for second on the team in sacks. He's an interior defensive lineman who's been known as a run stuffer.
That's not his game, bro. That's not his game.
You need edge. Like, you absolutely need edge. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. Yes, I get it. The teams ran the ball, and that is true. They did. But when you had the chance on true dropback sets, you still weren't that effective. Yeah. You got to get back there. You can't put it all on Jadeveon Clowney. Go get a young guy that he can bring him back. Go bring him back, but get a young guy that he can mentor and get them to being the guy. I'm telling you right now, you need edge, brother. I promise you need edge at some point in this draft or this offseason. I'm sorry, my guy. You got to get an edge. And I would probably try and get 2.
This is not the class to pass on it. I'm telling you, this is not the, like you said.
You pass on edge in this class, I'm firing you.
Yeah, even if you think you get an edge, take one. Like, take one. This is not a running back. Maybe we take a running back because it's deep. No, this is the class you take one, man. But
tight end, running back, edge, those 3 positions. Even if you don't need one, it's an immediate need. Draft one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I saw somebody ask about Braden Swinson. Keith talked about him on the pod. This guy gets after. He's a good player. You know what I mean, from LSU. For some reason, he's very under the radar. I don't know why, but he is. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think everybody has this bad taste in their mouth about, like, LSU's defense because of how bad it was and everything over the past 2 years. But Braden Swinson is a good player. And, like, again, like, it's and 100% what's up, Doug. This class is very deep, and you can double dip. 100%. You can double. That's why I'm not. Yes, I like Jatavian Sanders. I am not opposed to drafting another tight end and getting the 2 tight end personnel running 12, but also being able to go, like I talked about with Brady, being able to go empty out of 12. That's a superpower. Yep. When you can go to 12 and run the ball, force them into big defensive formations, that base, and then you spread out and go empty with Bryce, and now you got linebackers on slot receivers and corners trying to guard your tight ends. Yes, it creates all type of chaos for the defense, man. I think you guys you're in the right draft to need defense because this is a defensive heavy draft.
We got a lot of people asking about Tyler Warren at 8 potentially now. But apparently he's tight end 1, a top flight player in a lot of people's rankings. And we're going to wrap this up. So I'm going to ask you about a couple of players just off the cuff. Give me what you think about Tyler Warren potentially adding to us at 8.
No. No. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. No. I'm not. I like Tyler Warren. He's not my tight end 1. He's my tight end 2.
Okay.
But because I have Colson Loving over him. But
Okay.
no, I'm not taking him at 8 in this particular. No, like you need so much other things than tight end. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? When I say get another tight end, I'm talking about day 2, third round, day 3, top of the fourth. You know what I mean? Aronde Gadsden from Syracuse, big 6'5", 200. I think he came into the Shrine at like 245, up from 230. He came in looking like a grown man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Ball skills. He's a good route runner. Kind of, I don't know if he's going to test the same way, but he reminds me a little bit of Darren Waller in terms of
Okay.
that kind of that receiver converted to tight end. Yeah, I'm not drafting. I like Tyler Warren a lot. I'm not drafting him at 8 if I'm Carolina. I think that's drafting malpractice. I don't think that helps your team in the way you think it does. No, this tight end class is too. Jake Brenningstool from Clemson, you can get in the third. Yeah, no, I'm not. No, I'm sorry.
I think people see the highlights, of course, taking the wildcat snaps, the yak, which we need a lot.
Not translating to the league, man.
Yeah,
nobody's doing that.
I just think that tight end is such a position that, like, unless it's Brock Bowers, man, who was like, and even he even fell a little bit further than I think he probably should have, because people kind of overthink it. But I think you can see the unicorn type of guys. I'm not saying Warren is or isn't that, but I think at tight end, especially with this class, man, it's such a crapshoot drafting these guys and how they adjust. Using premium capital, it's tough, man. It's tough for me.
It's going to be a lot. That offensive coordinator they had, Klinecki or whatever his name is at Penn State, he did everything possible to get Tyler Warren free releases into open, and he did a great job. I mean, don't get me wrong. Could Dave Canales do that too? Yes. But if that's how I have to envision you being used to be highly effective at 8, no, I'm completely out on that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm out on that. No, let me get the guy. Let me get somebody that can be an instant, playmaker. Like I said, Ted McMillan, or a defensive player, man, or trade back. I'm just not. I'm cool on taking him at 8. I'm cool on that.
Shout out to this is the Knucklehead K. He asked about, what do you think about Caleb Johnson? Appreciate you on the super chat, brother.
Sure.
What do you think about running back Caleb Johnson?
Man, I like Caleb Johnson a lot. 6'1", like 220, light feet. He's like fleet-footed. He's working between the tackles. You got to have good footwork to be able to exchange gaps, work through the congestion and the traffic and the trash and everything else. And he's got, I think, like, I was texting a scout a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, man, I think his 40 may not be like 4.4, but they think his 10-yard split is going to be really good because he's got a really good burst. He catches the ball out of the backfield well. He's also got a pass protects well, also for the most part. Physical, he finishes runs, and he's a volume runner too. So it's like being able to put him in this offense. If you didn't pay Chuba, but you did, I don't think you draft him, because then it's like two similar skill sets. But still, like, I like Caleb Johnson a lot. He's my RB3 behind Ashton Genty and Amari Hampton right now.
Okay. I'm a lot lower on Caleb than a lot of people. I don't know, man. And I just watched him, and admittedly, I'm a big Travion Henderson type of guy. I like the home run hitters, man. That's just, I don't know. I like
Travion too.
I like that type of speed, and obviously he may not be that bell cow that Caleb Johnson potentially has to, that high volume carry guy, but I just think Caleb, he's not as shifty as I would like in terms of just making you miss and stuff like that. But he's that guy that, I mean, you play in a lot of tight spaces when you play in Iowa because the type of offense
100%.
So
they can't throw the ball.
Yeah, maybe in some space he's a little bit he'll be a little bit better. So I try to project that as well. But he's just not somebody I'm big on. But closing words, Dane, for you. What do you think would be the perfect? Let's just briefly, I guess, in like a minute. What do you think would be the perfect offseason for the Panthers in terms of what they're able to do in free agency, realistically, I guess, with the money they have and just the 9 draft picks that they have and just knowing where they are?
I think realistically, addressing your bigger needs if you can through free agency, right? There's a phrase, with scouting, you want to address your biggest needs. You don't want to go into the draft or to the grocery store hungry because you're going to buy everything. So you want to be able to address your biggest needs if you can get the guys to agree and get the terms done in free agency to where you go to the draft, you have 9 draft picks. And now each round you just go on best player available.
Yeah.
Right. And your board is more flexible. So I think that would be the dream scenario for the Carolina Panthers offseason is to fill that biggest need, whatever it may be, through free agency, and then go best player available each round with each pick in the 2025 NFL draft.
Yeah, I agree as well, man. We need talent everywhere, man. I don't think like I said, if we can we talked about pass catching running back. We talked about a difference making tight end. We talked about a number one receiver potentially, man. I just think that we're, as bad as the defense is, I don't think we're in a position to be like tunnel vision on the defense, because there is some good guys there. So it could end up being we have the top 3 or 4 picks be defenders. But I just also think that we need to open our eyes and be like, okay, hey, we didn't get whoever in free agency or whatever vet-wise. Maybe we do need to look at some speed at receiver, or a tight end that can be a matchup problem, or a running back and stuff like that, man. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I want to see what Dan Morgan does in a full cycle with his scouts, knowing that he has the job, knowing they have the same coaches. For better or worse, they retained Evero, so continuity is typically good in the NFL. So I just want to see how they perform, man, throughout all this. So
for sure.
I really appreciate you coming on, Dame, man. Always love. Y'all make sure y'all check out Dame at DP_NFL on social media. Y'all check out Locked On NFL Podcast. Y'all check out The Scouting Room, youtube.com/@The Scouting Room. He's everywhere, man. If you haven't realized with me listing all this stuff out, this is what he does, man. Draft is what he does, and draft is what he do. So make sure y'all check out Dame everywhere, man. Dame, it's always love. I appreciate you. I might have to get you back on here sometime closer to the draft, after the combine.
For sure.
When we get a little bit closer and things, and after free agency, kind of we get an idea of what the situation for the Panthers looks like. But, of course, it's always a pleasure, man. Y'all.
Anytime, bro.
In the chat. Love everybody in the chat as well. Y'all make sure y'all, like I said, follow Dame. Follow me at Dunk on Demand. I'm dropping some drafts thing too. I ain't Dame, but I like to do my thing. And like I said, this is a guy that I very, very much respect.
You do your junk, bro. You do your stuff, though.
I appreciate it, man. It means a lot coming from you. This is a guy I respect. He's known in the industry. He does what he does, man. So if y'all haven't understood, Dame knows what he's talking about, man. So listen, pay attention. It's an exciting time for the Panthers, man. We finally got the quarterback, it seems like. So let's build this roster up and try to be a little bit more competitive next year, man. But without further ado, I appreciate all y'all watching. I'm holla at y'all. Peace out.